Man, everybody thought it was gonna make $1 billion, man. That thing, they made so many copies, man. I think that thing is still worth $1.
But I was what you know what? When I saw written by Zack Snyder, I was like, oh, here we go. Show versus business about to ride out.
Welcome, everyone, to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture from two very different perspectives. I'm your host, Theo, and on the line, I have the man himself, Mr. Benja. What is
What
up?
what's up, man? We are kicking along. Episode 24, right?
24, man. Jeez, man. That's. I think that's almost near the age where you can rent a car.
Oh,
So we're close.
show versus business about to ride out.
We are doing it, man. Golly, yeah, we are kicking it into high gears. So, hey, everyone, we got a great show today. We're excited about talking about the latest news stories. A lot of news went on. A little bit more about the Warner Media and Discovery Plus merger, the new movies coming out, Cruella and Quiet Place 2. And then we'll talk a little bit about Bitcoin, the future story this week. And then we'll talk a little bit, do a recap on Army of the Dead and Bad Batch episode 4. So Ben, man, usually we talk about how was your week. So let's get into that real quick.
Week was fine, man. I've still been digging into the marketing and branding kind of stuff, reading books by Al and Laura Reese. Stuff that I looked at when I was working at Rockstar, but really going back and digging into now. All that's coming back to me. It's crazy. I don't know what your marketing and sales guys are doing.
Oh man, I love it, man. You're going old school, man. I'm reading some Pat Laconi, I think that's his name. He does that book on marketing, like all the how to influence marketing, and that's an old school book. But and then I was watching the True Secrets of the Mad Men from the 50s, 60s, 70s,
Mm,
like a documentary
yeah.
on what was it on CBS or Paramount Plus, and they talked about like the different marketing styles through the decades.
Oh,
So
nice,
yeah,
nice.
man, I'm like you, man. I'm just trying to dig in the crates, man,
You
figuring
you
out
you
okay.
you you plug in Paramount Plus with the content? Awesome.
I know, man. It is a nerd content, right? Trying to figure out how to. No, but it's kind of matched with the Mad Men. Mad Men was a TV show that came on a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and for those that don't know, it was a great show. And they talked about marketing in the '60s, and this documentary is like taking like how marketing changed from the '50s, '60s, '70s, '80s, and like how they did advertising. And so it's very fascinating. Maybe dig into crates a little bit about marketing and how that can translate the old school way with magazines, TV,
Yeah.
to this new school way and social media. So it's kind of interesting. Speaking of old school, man, one thing that just brought up to mind, man, was like, man, we go way back, man. Our nerddom, man, and there's this blurred term out there, black nerd. Man, back in the day when we were growing up, man, there was no such term. So you had to be undercover with your
Me?
nerddom.
Man, I was just weird, nigga. Blur. This is blurred.
Blurred, I know, man. It's like I earned this. I earned this badge, man. I was like, undercover, man, sneaking over to my friend's house to watch Akira
Mm,
after basketball practice.
hell yeah.
It's just like got hyped about it. So now you could be cool athlete and all that, and people wouldn't say anything. So I just go back, just thinking about my days of going to comic book shops, man, and just thinking about like here we're in this era where we got so much comic book content now. It's like it's almost too much, right? And so let's take it back into the '90s, man, when we were going to comic book shops. What was that like, man? Your experience when you first kind of went into those shops and got hyped about all these different stories that we're kind of seeing in movies now.
Man, I actually had a pretty badass comic book shop right down the street from me. I don't know if you remember that little dollar theater, Movies 8. But right down the street from that, there was actually a comic book shop off in the cut. So between the movies, the arcade, the comic book shop, and putt putt golf, you know,
You in heaven.
I was yeah, basically it was all and Blockbuster Video, all in walking distance, right? So
Oh
yeah,
man.
that comic book shop, man, that was I rolled up in there, we just hang out, they even want you to sit around reading too much because it's not a library, whatever. But I had fun in there, man. all day.
Nah, man. I back in my so you grew up in Tallahassee. I grew up in a place called Culver City in California. And right there was like about a block from our high school. There was a little quickie mart. That was what they called the little stop and go shop there where you buy candy and stuff before you went to school. And right next to it was a comic book shop. And man, we used to go in there, almost be late for school or after school and just spend hours looking at all the comic books. I swear to God, man, because so I grew up in Culver City, right next to the Sony Studios,
Yeah, yeah,
and I swear to God, man, I think we saw some celebrities in there. We don't know because, like, when you watch TV and movies, you don't know what these people really look like and how short they really are. So when you
yeah,
see them in real life, you're almost like, is that really them? But I swear to God, I swear, for those that don't know, it's a TV show called A Different World. And I could have swore I saw Dwayne, the character played Dwayne Wade and Freddie. And I could have swore that was them in the comic book shop, but we just didn't know what they looked like in real life. So
yeah,
we were
yeah,
just like, there's some random dudes. But I just remember going in there, man, and just being so hype about the comic books. And then, when we were kind of going to comic books, that was like that 90s comic book craze where like everyone had like a number one. I never forget X-Men number one. I think I still have that somewhere.
yeah.
Who was it? Was it Todd McFarlane? Who drew that cover? Was it Jim
Jim
Lee?
Lee, he had the 5-part cover with the Magneto on the final one.
Oh man, Cyclops, Magneto, all the bad guys on one end, the good guys with Wolverine and Pose. Man, everybody thought it was gonna make $1 billion, man. That thing, they made so many copies, man. I think that thing is still worth $1. But just reminiscing, man, because think about that was the number one. I forgot what other number ones that came out, but it was just so many
Um,
that came out around that time.
yeah, and in the era too, you also had Image and Valiant Comics splitting off from Marvel and DC basically because they got tired of the big boys, and that started this whole craze, And then Dark Horse was like, "Wait, don't forget about us." And so you have 5 comic studios out there. Everybody's putting out their best content. They're trying to just make the best thing ever. So it was wild.
Oh yeah, the Image comic days, Savage Dragon, Larson and his character, and that was hot. Oh, you gotta get this. My buddy was telling me that, right? And so I just
Spawn.
like the character. Spawn, yes. That was it. That was the number. Yeah, you're right. That was the biggest one out there, man. Or but even before that, McFarlane, he did that. He did his own Spider-Man, remember? And
Hmm.
that creepy cover on the top where he was just in webs and stuff.
Yeah.
And man, that was like hot, dude. And so we went crazy back in the '90s, man. That was just like hot time to be a comic book collector.
Yeah, what's interesting is I told a friend this, and he didn't believe me, but I think he believes me now. Because that was the time where all that crazy comic book stuff happened. You got to remember, a couple years later, or a decade later, maybe the internet kind of started happening, and the people who were in college and working on computers at the time were our age. So it was
Mhm.
like, I don't know if you remember Greg, who used to be down in the computer lab with us, me, Greg, Bryant, whole bunch of fools would be down in the computer lab. We're actually making the world's first busted ass websites.
Yep.
We're on bulletin boards talking about stuff. So when
Yep.
we're putting out the stuff that we thought was cool, which was comics. So we put all this content on the internet. Anyone goes on the internet in the early stages, they're going to see the shit that nerds like me put out there. You know, I take pride in that to the point where I use the word nerd on myself because I never do that.
Nah, man. Nah, you did it, Ben. You built it. You built the internet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please send checks to my Venmo.
Between you and Al Gore, man, single-handedly,
he
we
built
would
the
not have the internet.
he built the important stuff. I built the fun stuff. Yeah, that's what happened.
I well, I wish, and people forget, man. Yeah, those that was the fun days, man, of the internet, man. Just finding these groups and you could talk about this nerd stuff. Now it seems like the internet is more about engage enragement, except for certain social media sites, like TikTok. But it's like, that's that fun exploratory stage. And so just like comic books, you went there, you didn't know what artist or what story was going to be about. And every now and then you got that classic storyline, man, that just got, took you to another world. So yeah, man, I think we both come by it honestly. So people want to know why we dig in the crates a little bit with some of these stories. I mean, we've been dealing this for what over almost 30 years now, so we got a good sense of where this stuff has been, where it could
Yeah,
potentially go, and so it's kind of interesting.
man. it is amazing to think about the time when you actually got information when the comic book hit the stores.
Hmm.
This whole idea of information like bubbling up and hearing about all this stuff beforehand, that information was hard to come by.
Oh yeah, man. And you got to find the right groups to be a part of. It's, so it was definitely a different time. So
Huh.
take advantage of it, youngsters. This is a good time to just connect and find information. But you had to work hard back in the day, man. Made you sturdy
Yeah.
to find that information. So speaking of information, man, let's just get into the news segment. So I think there was a lot of news that happened last week. Matter of fact, at the end of our podcast, we didn't really go into it, but we kind of hinted at it. But Warner Media Discover Plus, they did a merger. So all the talk about HBO Max and what they were doing and the new CEO, forget all that. It was just a big merger that happened last week or last Sunday, Monday. They officially announced it. So basically, AT&T sold off all their Warner Media properties, and really they sold it and merged with Discovery Plus, right? So it was one of those things that was like kind of hinted at because the piece that we talked about last week, if you remember, Ben, the CEO mentioned that basically they didn't have enough money to produce this content, right? To compete with the Disney Pluses, to
Mm,
compete with Apple,
sad but
the
true.
Netflixes. Yeah, very true. And the fact that their numbers are just not on par. They were like at 12 million subscribers or 20 million subscribers compared to
Yeah.
like, Disney Plus, 100 million, Netflix, 200 million. So, AT&T said, you know what? Screw this, man. We're a 5G cellular company, man. What the hell are we doing in damn content? They said, F this. And then plus they had a lot of debt. So let's just sell this shit
Mm.
and go and go do what we do best. And Discover Plus, came in and for those that don't know, we talked about it a little bit on our live this week. Discover Plus is known for like the most interesting reality shows that you've
Yes.
ever heard. Did you get a chance to look at some of the ones that I talked about last time
No, I
within the live?
didn't get a chance to look at them. No, but I know they're out there.
Oh man, Nick and Afraid, 600 Pound Life, 90 Day Fiance, yes, all the great ones. They came together and create this behemoth that we don't know what's going to be the name, but it's going to be interesting. But the
One
one
thing,
thing that did also go ahead.
I was about to say one thing I do know is that it sounds juicy.
Yeah, I hear that guy's looking for a job right now. So it's gonna be interesting, man. So well, it's going but there's rumors that there's more to come because now you got, I kind of hinted at Paramount Plus, which is the CBS Viacom streamer, and then of course Peacock, which is the NBC Comcast streamer. I mean, dude, they gotta do something because they're not gonna compete now, right? Right now we got three major players, right? I mean, if you really two, but the other two, coming along pretty strong. But you got definitely Netflix that we talked about, Disney Plus, Apple, and Amazon. Well, Amazon is up there because of Amazon, Prime. So you just get the video for free, basically, with your soap purchase, as we always talk about, which is in 100 million. 100 million people have Amazon Prime, and then you have Apple, which Apple. We'll talk. Maybe we don't talk about as much, but they have some good shows. Like Mythic Crest and the one that really took off, Ted Lasso. I don't know if you've seen any of those shows. Maybe we'll talk about them another time.
Mm-mm.
But it's Apple, right? They got more money than God right now. So now you got Warner Media and Discovery Plus merger. There's rumors that they may uh, Paramount Plus and Comcast, NBC Universal may think about merging. So this would be the first time the stuff we grew up with, ABC, NBC, um, NBC and CBS will probably merge together into one kind of unit. So that's fascinating, man, because they can't compete.
Yeah, it's a new landscape. It actually, a lot of this reminded me of back in the day when all of the money went towards like what AOL was doing online. um, and they ended up doing the Time Warner deal. So back in the day, AOL bought Time Warner. People were kind of like, "What the hell? You mean the guys who spammed us with all those, AOL DVDs to install the program? Those guys are going to buy it? Time Warner? We're old school. We're powerful. We can't be bought by these guys." Yeah, you got bought, son. Um, so
Well, and you go ahead.
I was no, I was just about to say, just seeing the power changing hands like that was interesting, and I'm feeling just shades of that again, where it's like these guys who are in the tech space are making stronger moves than the old school guys are.
Yeah, and they don't know any better. I mean, but the thing that everybody's talking about is like basically AT&T, bought Warner Media, and they bought DirecTV for billions of dollars, and then sold them on pennies on the dollar, right? So they sold off DirecTV as well for way less, like I think 10% less
Shit.
than what they bought it for, and then they sold this off for basically pennies on the dollar what they bought it for. So, and then I think the Time Warner, they bought it over Time Warner, which was a previous merger, like you kind of hinted at, and it's like none of these mergers, man, they seem like they don't work out, man. It's like they don't they just don't have the capacity, the capital to kind of keep this content machine going unless you like have another entity that just puts out so much money and you have so much margin, basically have enough capital and enough profitability to just invest in content. Then you might as well get out of this game because you're not going to win. So it's kind of like very fascinating to me.
Yeah, people don't people don't realize how much money all this content takes. And it's a big investment, just from the production, pre-production, distribution, making deals with all of these merchandisers and everything else. It's an extremely big venture. So yeah, it's not like anyone can just do it. I mean, even though it kind of seems easy.
Well, I think everyone's trying to become a content creator now. And they kind of see it's a lot too to create your own TikTok videos, YouTube videos. And so just think on your small scale how much time and effort it takes to do that. Imagine, 100 1,000x, right? What they have to deal with, right? And
Yeah.
as you can see, there's time and money involved in this. I mean, one of the biggest YouTube creators, Mr. Beast, right? I mean, he routinely spends like millions of dollars on these videos, right? But he gets, 10 million views.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that you got to put a lot of money in content the bigger you become. So it's just the disease of a old time favorite coach of mine, Pat Riley from the Lakers. He said the disease of more, right? You get bigger and bigger, and you have to do more and more, right, to sustain it. So, yeah, content is not cheap once you get bigger. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
interesting. Uh, Moving on, man. Speaking of bigger and interesting, the theaters, they're trying to come back, man. So they got some new movies coming out. Well, really, one movie that's coming out, Quiet Place 2, and then Cruella that's going to do the whole streaming, premiere access route. So, what are your thoughts about these two movies coming out?
These are movies that are just getting, I don't want to say caught up, but they're finding themselves in this weird space between, do we go full theater, do we go, all streaming, or hybrid theater plus streaming? How do we do this? So, you have a couple interesting plays here, and everyone's just trying to find out where they can land, where they can get their users, uh, who they want to sacrifice to the experimental gods. Weird, really weird right now.
Yeah, this is an interesting business story too, man. I mean, you know, we're getting out of this pandemic. We always kind of hint at it, but yeah, the pandemic is pretty much over. I mean, more people getting out there. Stories about as you can know the pandemic is getting over, almost over when you see airline tickets getting back to previous highs, and so when you try to travel, book a travel now is not as cheap as it used to be. So that's definitely interesting. So now we're in this other space where they're trying to get the people to come back to the theaters, man. Come on. And so they're trying to find that content that's going to get them come back. And then, but at the same time, they still have content they want to get in people's hands. So they're kind of playing, like you said, which is going to win out long term? Is it going to be both at the same time? Or are we going to see just a fundamental shift in that? Just like most people just rather stay at home.
Yeah, man, you got to do something to make the theaters exciting. As I said, Deadly Blow has been cast on the market in terms of theatrics, the whole movie business. So I don't know, bring in bring in dancers or something. At the, check this out, man. At the end of you remember Mission Impossible, the one where Tom Cruise totally flipped the script and
Of
was like,
course.
yeah. So me and our old roommate John, um, we went to see that because we were so hyped about the music, just the music, right? We were like, yo, that song is fire. We got to go see the movie. At the end of the movie, we both ran down to the front and just started dancing, right? And we were so we were down in front dancing during the credits, and we were yelling at the people, come on, start dancing!" And people actually started dancing. It was a different time, and we weren't worried about getting on social media or anything. We were just cutting up. But yeah,
Oh
man,
yeah.
if theaters did like little dance parties or something, that hey, I'd be in the theaters.
Interesting, man. Dance parties. You know what? That you never been to a kid movie with kids, right? So
Yeah.
dude, that happens all the time, man. Little kids jump up, especially at the end. I think we saw Trolls, the first one in the theaters, and at the end they played that Justin Timberlake song. I got that feeling, man. You see a bunch of 4 or 5 year olds hyped up. Not only had they been sitting there watching this movie, but they've been hyped up on candy for the last 2 hours. Man, you talk about a dance party, dude. Them fools, man. They were all over the place, man. So yeah, man, it's great, man. Well, one thing me and the family did one time is kind of interesting. We went to a sing along. You ever did one of those before? The movie
No.
theater? Yeah,
Yeah, no, I haven't.
yeah, The Greatest Showman. It was like an old school movie that came out around Christmas time. It got panned and it didn't do well, but it was one of those movies that just translated well to home viewing because the songs are pretty hot and fire. It was like with Zendaya in it and Hugh Jackman. And so it became hot over time, and then eventually people wanted to go re-see it, and they released it on the movie theaters. And you would go, and they would have the little bouncy ball with the little lyrics to the words, and people started singing, man. And I had me and the family had listened to those songs for so long, man. It was just funny when the first song came on, and everybody started singing. I was like, oh man, people are really singing up in here, man. People singing their hearts out, man. You had like 80-year-old people out there just busting tunes, man. And so it was fun, man. We all had a good time, man. And so it was just fascinating. But I agree. Theater's got to do something interesting, man, to kind of get us back.
Yeah, interesting side note. Tidal is offering movies now.
Well, okay, sure. Why not?
Yeah, the title. But here's the catch. They don't offer it as like, hey, just come watch this movie. They say, hey, the soundtrack with all these banging hits. We got the soundtrack and da 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 da. Oh, and you can watch the movie while you're at it. I don't have Tidal, so I don't know exactly how that plays out. But I thought that was really interesting, because also when we were growing up, we saw the era of the soundtrack becoming a really big thing. Mortal Kombat. There was the Nutty Professor soundtrack.
Above the Rim
Brother
soundtrack.
and Belly. Yeah, those Space Jam soundtrack. Those were like really big deals. Like, yo, I got to go get that CD and bump that soundtrack, and then go watch the movie again. Hell yeah! So just a little interesting thing I want to throw out there.
Nah, man, I love it, man. So we're talking about theaters. We're gonna get people coming back. Well, we got one hot movie, man. We got another Fast and the Furious movie coming out here.
Oh,
F9. F9. So man, this franchise is very interesting, man. So well, first of all, are you hype about F9 coming out?
I'm not hyped about any of the Fast and Furious movies, but I like them. You know, get a little sippy and some some high fructose corn syrup while I watch it, and we're all good. I love them.
This is just a fascinating franchise, man. So when it first came out, the first Fast and the Furious made 144 million dollars, right? So it was like a hit. Everybody liked it. Very interesting movie for the time. Definitely had a lead that was non-traditionally, not like a white male, with what's it called, Toretto, played by Van Diesel, and so he became or Vin Diesel. I said Van, excuse me. Please don't kill me, Diesel heads out there. Vin Diesel became a superstar on the back of Fast and Furious. Fast, Too Furious came out the next year and didn't do as well, but still made 100 million. And then I think the third one, which was the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, only made like 62 million. And so, and I think Vin Diesel didn't even show up in that one at all. So I think people, and he didn't even show up in the second one either. So I think people thought it was dead. It was in the series. But man, it came back to life, man, when it came out with the third and fourth ones, and it just like blew up into like $200 million character territory. Everybody's like, "What the hell? Why is this movie so hot?" And then so now they're like, for those who don't remember, this started literally as a series about just a guy who used to race cars in the street. If we let's remember that
Yeah.
back when it first started, way back in 2001. Now they're basically flying cars. They're like got what magnetic cars. They got
Hang gliders and planes. It's a
oh my goodness, driving through the streets with a safe behind them. So it's become like this weird kind of series. Basically very diverse cast. You got Michelle Rodriguez and Tyrese and what Ludacris in it, and now in this international cast. You got weird storyline, and then they got this built on family. So the villain is always somebody's family that ends up becoming their friend at the end. It's just like the weirdest show, TV movie series ever, man. But it's like making like billions of dollars. So I don't know, man. I'm just fascinated by this story.
were you about to say flabbergasted?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, boy.
Fabulous. This is crazy. Flabbergasted.
I love
I
it.
mean, what,
I
what,
can
what I mean, what are your thoughts, man?
that's the
I'm
best
just
word to
going.
describe that series, man. I love it. I wanna see what's happening. It's interesting they're making a play in China where China gets it first and, they've gotten it first, and there's some money coming in from China, so that's interesting. I didn't know they were trying to push, that franchise that way, but, you got any information on that?
No, I do not at this time, man. But it sounds about right. I mean, this is it's an international series, man, and I think also they're bringing back some characters that died previously. So non spoiler alert, he shows up in the trailers, the Han character, and he came from Tokyo Drift, one of their lowest performing movies, but he became a fan favorite over the years, and he died in one of them. Now he's coming back, and so, dude, I don't know, man. And now they got like Oscar winners showing up. And they got Haren Mirren, they got Charlize Theron popping up. Now they got wrestling guys coming up again. Now you got John Cena popping up. I mean, it's just getting out there, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Barack Obama showed up for a scene, man. It's out there.
Yeah, so I just checked Variety right quick to make sure I had the numbers. Um, F9 roars toward an estimated 52 million opening day in China despite security threat. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, so there you go. It's out there. It's doing the thing, and I think people want to see superhero shit without the capes or something because
Mhm.
there's no way this should be doing what it's doing.
I knew there was one scene. I can't remember which one, but there was one part in one movie where the two top characters, the Paul Walker character, rest in peace, and then the Vin Diesel character, they literally were in their car and they were about to hit over a cliff. And it's like, oh well, we just got to go over the cliff. And I said, okay, oh wow, I guess it's the end of the story. These fools just got in the car, they went over the cliff, and they did, they just levitated outside the car and just fell right into the water peacefully, like nothing ever happened. I was like, dude, this is it. This is where they at now. So it's like when there's no stakes, it's kind of weird to me when you watch movies where there's no stakes. Like these people really can't die, but it's one of those things that you just got, like you said, it's a superhero movie now, so we just got to accept it. Oh man, this is crazy. So, a couple other items, real quick. Amazon talking about superheroes, and just accept it. Amazon is doing what they do best, which is take over the world, and looks like they're in talks to acquire MGM. Uh, so Ben, Mr. Benja, what do you think about that, man? It's kind of like a lot of different things going on there with Amazon, MGM. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
So Amazon is coming at you. I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but they're just creeping. We got this king of the hill analogy, and they're just slow walking, and no one's stopping them from coming up the hill because they can't stop them. But it's not like they're trying to run up the hill. They're just taking their time doing what they do. With this purchase of MG, I mean, with this talk of purchasing MGM, that's going to get a major uh, injection into their pipeline. And the simple thought would just be that, hey, well, now Amazon has a new place to build Amazon originals, and we could have these a theater connection maybe because of all the connections MGM has with theaters. But you got to remember, this is Amazon. They're not thinking 2 steps ahead, they're thinking 10 steps ahead. So, remember when they bought Whole Foods, people were like, "What's that about?" All of a sudden, they have this high-end retail, chain and process that they watched Whole Foods build up and they're using. So now it's like, are they about to try to really change the movie industry and how things happen there? It's a very curious question, but moves like this by Amazon should not be taken lightly.
100%, man. And so, I was just looking at some of their content library. What are they known for? So, one of the big ones is the Bond franchise, right? It's just like huge. The rumor is though that the family that owns Bond, they just not easy to work with, and so. But if they can convince the family that has a big stake in Bond, right? James Bond franchise, then that could be a huge play because there's so much story we can go into the James Bond story. I mean, he's 007 for God's sake. So who's 001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? I want to know their stories, man.
Yeah.
What's going on with them, man? Uh, what's going on with Moneypenny when she's not trying to flirt with James Bond, man? What's going on with M, man, and Q, man? What they doing, man? It's like, dude, there's so much to explore in James Bond. It's like it just screams like I want to see a limited series about it. And so if Amazon makes this happen, dude, I could definitely see we're gonna get a prime series on that. That'd be huge.
You remember we used to play GoldenEye 007 in the back in the dorm rooms, right?
Of course.
All this N64, Odd Job and all those clowns. Well, one thing that was weird about it, I didn't realize the end guy, Trevelyan, I think his name was a 006 agent, and he was like the last.
Oh, that's right.
He was like the last guy from the 006 program, and as little effort as they put into the story in that game, that was really interesting. It's like, yo, that's the last guy from the previous program, and he's gone rogue because they ended the program. He's all pissed off, and it's kind of like, you have to take down your predecessor. It was really weird, but engaging. So yeah, like you said, these stories could go crazy.
I mean, dude, you're right. I mean, and what makes each program different, right? Is it like the Weapons X program? They come with some. You get into 007 program. What do you get? Like adamantium or something in your
Yeah.
gun? I mean, it's like I want to know more, man. It's like, dude. So, I mean, James Bond's a cool character, and what Craig has done. Daniel Craig has done with the character has been amazing. But I think there's a lot more there, and also the Rocky franchise, right? With Creed now that's evolved it with Michael B. Jordan. That's part of the MGA series. So there's a lot of storyline we can go into there too, man. So anyway, it's just it'll be fascinating if they can make this work, man, because I think there's a lot of great content out there, and I think we all are craving for new stories and different universes now. Marvel has shown that, so I think if they can get this content library, but you're right, I think it's beyond just getting the content library for content's sake, right? So what does that mean? They now have MGM is a brand on Vegas, right? So now Amazon has a presence in Vegas, right? So what does that mean for them long term, right? The Amazon store, right? Amazon playground in Vegas, right? So, dude, you're right. They're thinking like, yes, we'll get the content, but dude, can we get part of Vegas?
Crazy thoughts.
I love it, man. So anyway, one it would finally Disney, man. Disney's always up to some new content. I mean, and especially the Star Wars content. So what you got, man? What's the latest in the Disney in the Star Wars verse world?
They weren't satisfied with just releasing Bad Batch and having it roll on its own. Um, Disney put out a bunch of new Star Wars shows. You got the Clone Wars Legends, which was the animated ones by Jindy Tartakovsky. Crap, messed his
Hmm.
name up. Who is the Powerpuff and Samurai Jack guy? That series is on Disney Plus now. You got this new kind of environmental series. I forgot the name of it, but it's they're putting content out there for Star Wars. But um, sad to say that Droids is only going to Disney UK for now.
Oh,
Oh, the horrible droids that nobody ever wanted to ever mention. You couldn't find it on DVD. Uh, it's like Lucas tried to wipe it off the face of the earth, and Disney's like, uh, so I'll put it out.
was Droids that bad? I remember it being okay when I saw it at the time.
um,
What's
it,
it?
along with the holiday special, it's like Lucas just wanted to distance themselves from it, but Disney's kind of like, what, you got content? We'll put it out. Let's go.
Hmm. Man, this is yeah, it's fascinating. So I've been watching. Speaking of Disney and how they release content, the kids and I have been watching DuckTales, and they finished up. I think they did 3 season arc of this last recent you know reintroduction of the introduction of DuckTales, and in it, they started to reintroduce these other characters, right? That came out of the whole '90s, Disney TV afternoon TV, series like Rescue Rangers. Um, Goof Troop,
Hmm.
what was his name, Darkwing Duck, and so they would pop up as little characters, in the episode of the latest Ducktales. So it's kind of fascinating. So I saw something pop up in one of the Ducktales episodes with the kids. I saw, oh yeah, that's the girl from Rescue Rangers. They like, what's that? So of course I was on Disney
Oh,
Plus. I popped in Rescue Rangers, and they liked the song. I said that song is hot, and so we started watching that. And so yeah,
amazing.
Disney's doing some interesting things,
That's
man.
how they
They're
get you.
they're trying to get you hyped up, man, and getting the kids, mainlined on that Disney content. So,
Oh,
dude, it's crazy times.
yeah. But one show that you were not getting is the Rangers of the New Republic. So I don't know what they were planning on doing with that after the Cara Dune character got exited, but now it's nothing.
I mean, what happened, Ben? I mean, I thought that was like presented at the investor meeting, man. Like they were hyped up about all the new content they were going to create. What I don't understand. What could have changed their mind?
Somebody got woke.
Or somebody got canceled. More likely.
Uh,
Oh man, I don't know, man. I don't know. Were people excited about that kind of storytelling around the New Republic and what was happening there?
I think a lot of people thought it could be interesting until they really didn't like the character. And once the character became the Cara Dune character, for you guys that don't remember, she got caught up in the actress got caught up in a lot of political drama and posting things on the internet that had people looking at her crazy. Well, she basically got exited from the show, and they were Disney said, "Hey, we're going to keep the show going on. Don't worry, we'll rewrite it. We still have a lot of faith in the idea for the show. It's going to move forward." And then after a while, they realized that character had put so much stank on it that they didn't like. They were like, "Well, now no one cares about the show. We got to move on to other things. Um, yeah, let's double down on the Book of Boba Fett and see what we can do elsewhere."
Interesting, fascinating. So, yeah, man, it's a different world, man, and content is constantly changing based on political realities. So it's gonna be, it's funny to see how Star Wars is affected by this, right? So in theory, it really shouldn't. It's a fantasy story, but you're right. If people don't believe in the character or the people playing those characters, then why produce it? So moving on to the other ones, right? I think what the Obi-Wan show. What's some of the other ones that are coming out too? Coming up here,
Uh,
Obi-Wan is one.
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka, yeah, that's definitely a given.
You got
Uh,
oh, and they are putting. Speaking of droids, they are putting more energy into this new droid-based show, whatever that is. So what may have happened is you had a bunch of people in a room and they were all working on Rangers, and then some lady with the clipboard came in and said, "Everybody stop working on Rangers, move on down to the droids room." And that's the kind of stuff that happens in corporate offices. I don't know if any of you know that, but
New Republic is dead, folks. Moving on to droids. Put your pencils down.
leave your computers there. IT will move everything for you.
Stop. No,
Ex-
don't take anything from this room. If you do, you will be fired.
except
I
for
love
except
it,
for
man.
you, Sarah. We saw your internet post. You're out of here.
Oh man. So hey guys, that was a good quick roundup on the news. So we'll get into our featured story briefly. Bitcoin, Bitcoin to the moon. HODL. Dogecoin. Man, these are just words I'm just
Woo.
yelling out there. But the big news this last week, Bitcoin is down, 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 my friends. May 10th, just to tell you how down it was. On May 10th, it was around 59,000 Bitcoin. And then it literally 9 days later, May 19th, it went all the way down to $30,000. One Bitcoin is now only worth $30,000. Basically, 9 days lost half its value, over $1 trillion. Why Bitcoin is the focus? Because it affects all the other coins like Dogecoin and Ethereum, and so it's just fascinating story, man. And we'll talk about how this relates into the NFT market too. I'd love to get your take on this, Ben. But it's definitely something that's kind of fascinating people, and I think there's like three things are kind of attacking at the same time, which we kind of hinted at it in some of our storylines and talking, but more and more people are kind of seeing this happen. One of the big things is the government and taxes, right? This is around tax season. They moved tax season to May this year, and
Mhm.
so if you don't know, the government is checking their cryptocurrency out and trying to figure out how much you made last year. And so people are worried that the government is going to start taxing it, trying to find ways to regulate it more, which is understandable, right? It's a currency, and people are using it to buy real things, and so that's becoming more of a big push, to regulate it. So there could be some things pushing that, the pricing pressure down. But one of the big things was China. China did a huge crackdown on Bitcoin mining and all that, and they have a big play in there because a lot of mining is done in China. And the Chinese government is looking at cracking down, like what's happening there, trying to regulate it more. And China's government is a little bit more, let's just say stronger than our government when they wanted people to do things. And so that's really affecting, when you have a huge market that's taking out of this Bitcoin play, it's going to drive things down when people are selling, tremendous dollar amounts of Bitcoin out there. And then finally, Elon, the Doge father himself, man. I think his company Tesla was taking Bitcoin to buy Teslas, and he just basically reversed that literally right after he called Dogecoin a hustle on Saturday Night Live. He just pretty much said that Tesla will no longer be accepting Bitcoin for to buy Teslas, and so he basically broke bad on all Bitcoin and said, he just woke up and said, "Hey, guess what? I figured out that Bitcoin is just bad for the environment due to the amount of electricity that's being used to mine for Bitcoin." Which I think a lot of folks already knew. But Bitcoin Elon all of a sudden just woke up to that fact. So that drove, and he tweeted about it, of course, and so that drove things down. So those three forces are really driving, putting a lot of pressure on Bitcoin,
Yeah.
and it's like keeping it down. So
And
fascinating story, man.
it's weird because even at the same time, he jumps in and says, "Listen, I'm not selling Dogecoin." And it's like, so he's kind of bashing Bitcoin and saying he's not selling his Dogecoin, and he's still working to do this Doge one literally to the moon thing. It's 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 crazy what's going on right now, and yeah, I don't know. I'm I don't know. You buying the dip? I don't know.
No. I mean, we're not going to give people advice, but literally I bought in around, I had it back in 2017. I sold it because it didn't do anything for like 2 years, and I brought back in like in the 20s. It's like it's basically gambling now, right? When you have, a lot of other forces that are driving. It's not a true market, so it's hard to, even markets can't be predicted. But when you have one person literally driving the market, it's kind of scary, man. When you can have that much influence. I mean, and I also think there's some play going in there with, I think Tesla's trying to really get big into the China, or has been big in the China market, the Chinese market, and so I think
Hmm.
he's trying to understand how he can play nice with them, and if he's going against Bitcoin, that could help Tesla. So there's a lot of chicanery machinations going on here, and it's
Yeah,
kind of hard to understand what was real or was not. But I am a believer in Bitcoin, decentralized currency, decentralized proof of work,
yeah,
and I think there's that, and it makes sense to me, so I am still investing in certain different projects. But will Bitcoin be the primary stable coin, for us in the future? I don't know, man. It might be one of those, like, it was the best branded, but then you're gonna have better
Hmm.
technologies, better solutions that are gonna be more stable and more more viable for a future environment, future financial future. So I think those are the ones that I'm thinking about, like Ethereum. We'll talk about that in a second. I think helium is one I'm hot on. So again, we don't give any advice, financial advice, but just definitely do your research yourself. But I think Bitcoin is just this big thing that's going to save finances and getting people hyped up. We got to
Well,
reevaluate things.
yeah, it's interesting. It's like, just when you talk generically about cryptocurrency, a lot of people say Bitcoin. It's just the name out there, right? So I think it gets a lot of play just because it's got the granddaddy of them all status. And it's like even if there are better solutions out there, it's kind of got this granddaddy status. And what I want to know is, with that, what do the different governments do? What do the different industries start doing? Um, there are a couple websites where you can actually buy with Bitcoin. Some you can't. Um, if somebody like Google or Amazon, Shopify, if all these guys start taking different stances on the coins, we could really see different things happening that are simply unprecedented. So we're in uncharted waters.
Yeah, we always are. So I love it. It's just, that's where the opportunities are made, man, in
Oh
uncharted
yeah.
waters.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts? NFT guy, man, you're in this market, you understand it more and more. I mean, how's Bitcoin and what it's doing? How's that affecting the NFT market? Are we going to see it get hurt as well, or are we going to see basically more folks realize, NFTs, maybe you can help me understand this too, but NFTs are basically an influencer's way to kind of create their own kind of stable coin, right? And so, be curious to think through, like, is this going to take off even more? I mean, what were your thoughts on the NFT market?
So I like the idea of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, being that they're based on this technology that called Ethereum. Um, you can have other platforms, but Ethereum, is really structured not to just be a trade of currency, but this thing where you trade smart contracts. And what I think that does is turns Ethereum, and thus NFTs and associated technologies, what that does is turns Ethereum into a sort of operating system where you have a decentralized operating system. And what do I mean by that? Well, if people decide that, hey, we're going to make an offshoot of Ethereum that allows, as I've said in previous examples, allows us to track movie contracts. Suddenly, you've got this decentralized operating system, and someone says, "Hey, if I get paid, I want to have an Ethereum-based movie contract of such and such, da 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 da." And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's literally the operating system that your contract is operating on now, some decentralized thing. Um, and I think that's extremely powerful. But the best technology isn't always the one that wins out. So there are dozens of other coins out there that could find ways to swoop in and do things differently, or it may pop off for whatever reason. But I am really interested in what Ethereum's doing, especially with Ethereum 2 coming out later.
Mm, And what about Ethereum too that you like the best about it? Is just you think it's more environmentally friendly? I mean, you think that they're doing some interesting things around, how they could structure it better than they have the current way.
Yeah, there are a few tricks that I shouldn't say tricks. There are a few techniques that they're putting into Ethereum 2 that are going to make it a lot more usable, and a lot more environmentally friendly. Those are the two big things people are concerned with. So, your transaction speed will be a lot faster. People are worried about, well, this can't be taken that seriously if it's going to, take literally 10,000 times as long as Visa does to process a transaction. All of a sudden, you cut that back down to reasonable numbers, and it's not good for the environment. It's not a ding on the environment Then all of a sudden it's like, wow, Ethereum 2 is suddenly a thing. And all my old Ethereum can get transferred over to Ethereum 2 just like that. That's a big play. So um, it could upend Bitcoin as the number one cryptocurrency. It's currently the number two. But as I said, the uncharted waters, no one knows.
No, I agree. I mean, Ethereum, the whole concept of smart contracts, right, came from Ethereum, and that was able to create governance and structure around currency, right? And so now, this you have access to this currency if you do X, Y, and Z, or this currency can do X, Y, and Z. So they Ethereum really came up with this new concept of how these decentralized currencies could be used in the world, and so that's fascinating to me. So I agree. I think that like you, I'm a believer in the technology. I think this could be the future. It will be the future of. It's just too much money invested in it. Too many, for lack of a better term, passionate people that's in
Yeah.
this industry. So I just think it's just too much. It's too far gone. It's kind of like the internet, right? It's just too far gone. In the early days, internet, you had everybody and their mama, creating these busted websites with flashy
Yeah.
flash pictures and things like that. And
Yeah.
so that's where we are in this world right now.
Well,
But
yeah.
eventually,
Yeah, and this is where I come back to the I can't you can't just bank on it because this is where we always get surprised. Where people say, "Oh, well, it's obviously got the best technology, it's obviously got the finance people behind it," and then something goes left and it just changes everything. We've been talking about virtual reality for ages. Like, oh my gosh, you can put on a headset, you'll be looking around, it'd be great, man. We've been talking about that since '93. Um, it's taken all this time, and we still haven't seen like a killer app that everybody has to go out and get their Oculus VR for. You could,
man, Oculus is out there selling it, man. I see commercials all the time. They got an 80-year-old knocking out heavyweight boxers in the commercials.
oh right, my bad. The future is here. The future is now. So I mean, yeah, anything can happen. And if it's not in it, but yeah, as you said, there's so much money moving around it. It says follow the money. Well, money's moving fast, and it's hard to follow.
Mm, I love it. That's a sound bite for yes right there.
Mm,
So we definitely take that to heart. But yeah, it's just fascinating, man. I mean, we're probably not going to spend too much time on this future story because it's a fast moving target. We'll wake up in the morning, it might be down to 10,000.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, but speaking of which, full disclosure, I asked you if you bought the dip. Let me tell you, man, I bought the dip, I bought the plummet, I bought the drop, I bought the downfall. The whole- and I'm
good
just
for you, man.
no, it's not. I'm looking at him like, why did I do that? But no, I'm sure it'll bounce back up. In fact, since before we started the podcast, it's jumped back up like 6% or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, like, I'm barely up, but it's like I said, Bitcoin is it's almost like gambling now. It's just there's no rhyme or reason, and so which it's a very interesting time to be involved in this. But I think we both believe that the technology, or not just the technology, but just the concept of decentralized currency, could be really important. So I leave with this note right here. I saw this movie, terrible movie, Greenland, with Gerard Butler, about like basically a meteor shower, was coming to the planet Earth and just basically killed everything on the planet, and so everybody's running around going crazy. And then to me, I was like, oh, that's the best use case for Bitcoin right there, man. Go ahead and get my cryptocurrency on my Ledger wallet, and I'm good to go. Now I got all my money in the palm of my hands, just in case the end of the world fell apart. So yes, I think Bitcoin does have a future if the end of the world happened, because now you have your coin locked up in your cold storage, and you'll be good to go when
Check
you
this.
get on the road.
Yeah, I got a conspiracy theory.
Uh
Um,
oh.
yeah, I think you're talking about end of the world. Well, I think the blockchain and cryptocurrency will bring the end of the world.
Oh no.
Yep, I'm telling you, man. Skynet. You start putting
Oh
all these smart
man.
contracts out there. You got to have all these computers agreeing, and it's like, hey, man, we can't shut all these computers down at once. They won't let us because they all have to agree on it. And we start making AI programs that are just running out there on the blockchain, doing whatever the hell they want. It's like we can't stop it. We can't stop the blockchain. It's its own smart contract. It's too smart for us. And you're done, man. You finished.
So basically, we're going to create what Elon calls a super intelligence, right? Where it basically says, you know what? I don't need these human beings. I can create a whole new way of thinking, a new new environment. I'll be the judge of what's most efficient for these human beings. And now we become our robot overlords are over us now, right? Taking over. So,
Yep.
nah, very interesting, man. Very interesting. You think that's what Elon has? Because remember, Elon, he hasn't talked about as much, but that was his big story. Remember, he was always talking about the coming AI apocalypse, right? The robots were taking over. He hasn't talked
Hmm.
about it as much anymore, but is that why he stopped talking about Bitcoin? Uh-oh, he may know something.
I mean, data mining and the stuff that goes on in some of these coins. Like I started looking into what these different coins were doing. They're phenomenally complex in how they're distributing data, finding out who's valid, who's not, um, punishing people for doing, what they might think are rogue transactions. Guys' computers might have screwed up, and he's like, "Hey, guys, I'm sorry," and the entire network is like, "Screw you and your entire, you know, Greenland, Finland mining operation. We just downgraded you." And like, who made that decision? The blockchain made that decision. Shut the hell up.
Mm. Wow. You got me thinking about some old 12 monkeys type shit, man. Just like, you're bringing about the end of the world that you're trying to prevent. So
Skynet.
it's kind of like, yeah, man. It's like we're going to create this new economy and everything's going to be great. But no, we're ending bringing about our downfall. So, man, go ahead and write that movie. And that movie writes itself right there. There you go. So anyway, guys, as always, we'll keep reaching out to us. I know this is an interesting thing to talk about in the show versus business podcast, but we are about business, and this is the most fascinating business story of our time. And so, if you got questions, comments, leave them where you see us in Twitter and Facebook and all that, because we'd love to hear your thoughts, and we've covered this more and more. So, with that being said, we'll get into our final segment, the recap segment. So, we got two recaps this week: Army of the Dead, the latest Zack Snyder movie, and then The Bad Batch. So, hey, what do you think of Army of the Dead, man, on Netflix with Dave Bautista and the crew?
I heard some bad reviews on it, and I watched it, and I was fine with it. I mean, I wasn't impressed, um, but I was what you know what when I saw written by Zack Snyder, I was like, oh, here we go. Zack's about.
Me too.
I he this is his the last time he did an independent story, a story independent of any other franchise or long-standing property, was when we saw Sucker Punch, and that did not go well. You can pretty much just say it did not go well. Bad. So, I saw written by Snyder. I was like, oh man, he didn't even have a co-written by or anything else. I don't know, but it was a basic zombie movie. I wasn't mad at it. What'd you think?
um, I thought it was very, very high level. I liked it, but it was forgettable. It wasn't anything that changed the thought process around zombies, right? I mean, we'll talk about the plot. We're gonna do some spoilers here. We'll talk a little bit about the plot.
Spoiler,
So
spoilers on.
yeah, it's on Netflix. Yeah, they put it out there. I think number one, it suffers from the Netflix problem, which we always talk about. I think
Hmm.
the quality of the shows is always just around like a C plus B minus, and so
Yeah.
their movies, it's just like they just are content for content's sake, or the algorithm takes over, and they say, hey, you really should put this into the movie or put this into the TV show. So I think a lot of that was kind of in there, even though it's written by Zack Snyder. And of course, he's a filmmaker or artist, so they're gonna be like, "Oh, you want to give me money to do whatever I want? Hell yeah!" So, I think it kind of suffered for it. Could have been some things on they could cut out, but ultimately, it was interesting, fascinating. What things worked for me? I think the heist movie concept is great, fascinating. I love those kind of things. Getting the gang back together. You
Hmm.
son of a bitch! Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm in. So it's kind of like one of those that's always kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
worked for me. I like the characters. I mean, every character was worked pretty well for me. I mean, I think no one was too annoying, and they worked well. I thought that was good. The zombies look good. So those are the things that, yeah, they look, they fine to me. I like the environment, Las Vegas. So those are the things that work for me right now.
Yeah.
Now I can get to the bad part. So
Well,
I thought, go ahead.
I'll jump in with what I like to. I definitely did. I agree with you there. I like the characters. I like what they did with zombie lore. How they threw interesting bits of zombie lore in there without really, um, beating you over the head with, "Hey, we're changing everything." They just added these bits in, and it kind of worked, which was pretty cool to me. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, zombies coming from Area 51. That's a whole can of worms. You talk about aliens, UFOs, and Area 51. I mean, you could make a spin-off, a whole another movie that kind of relates to it. That was a very awesome move there. You got military involved, so you can go your Resident Evil route if you want. Um, you have the hierarchy of zombies. So they're your dumbasses, who are just lumbering around, all the way up to your alphas or whatever you want to call them, who are basically hive lords. They're pretty sentient and control all the other ones. You've got hibernating ones who are just asleep, ones who are dried up and desiccated. So they hinted at what would happen if it rained, and that never happened. But the idea was just sitting in your head like, oh crap, what if the sprinklers come on and all these dudes start rising up and because they're not dried out anymore. So yeah, I like what they did in that respect. Good world building.
Interesting. That was one of the things I did not like.
Really?
It's funny. Yeah, I thought it was a little hokey, the whole zombie baby thing. I was like, what is this, dude? Do
Well,
we really
okay,
want to
okay,
see
okay.
this?
The zombie baby could go.
Why? Why? I mean, come on, man, dude.
Oh man, it was.
And then,
It was when you
when
said
the
forgettable,
baby,
I totally forgot about it. It was literally forgettable because I just like,
exactly.
oh wow, that's dumb. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, when the little baby came out and then it was all blue and his blue flickered out. Oh,
Oh.
baby gone, baby gone.
Ah,
So stuff like that, I was just like, and then the whole fast moving versus slow moving zombies, that's done before. And so, I mean, I don't think he really brought too much different to the zombie lore. It's just more. Now, to your point, I didn't catch that part that they were basically inferring that the zombie came from Area 51, right? That was the first scene. And so I thought that was, now that you think about that, that is kind of an interesting concept. Basically, zombies are um basically aliens. So that's basically what he's kind of hinting at, which is okay, cool. But yeah, so we get into some of the things. Um, I do is like I'm fascinated. I mean, he did the same thing he did with Watchmen, right? He did this whole beautiful beginning scene, right, where you have music
mhm.
playing in the background, slow motion, story playing in front of you, right? Dude, I was so fascinated by that story, man. I was like, dude, why can't a movie be about that? It's just like, man, they had a whole character. This I guess his mom, soccer mom, that they
Yeah,
basically and her daughter, and they killed off. I was like, I thought they were coming back in the movie, man. They never came back. I was like, dude, why would you hint at this great character, man? Because basically it looked like she was like the first one that was trying to, rise up against the zombies that took over
yeah.
in Las Vegas. And she recruited everybody else, right? And then she was kind of like the leader, it seemed like, and they killed her off at the end. I was like, oh, dude, I hope she comes back. She never came back. Like, what the hell? I want to see that movie.
She gone, bro. Yeah, and this is where Zack Snyder is not strong in really pulling together a strong series of story threads. I think you had interesting characters; they were all unique and whatever, but they didn't they didn't play off each other in a way that really tightened the entire story. And when you have a good story, you don't realize it, but what they're doing is they're bringing all these characters together. For example, the guy who was cracking the safe and the guy with the saw blade. Forgot his name. Those two
It was
characters.
played by Amari Hardwick, but I can't remember Van. I think his name was Van, but Amari Hardwick, a longtime Power TV show watcher.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah, he
yeah.
was good in that.
Yeah, so a lot of interesting things. Like the tattoos he had were very interesting. There was an Omega tattoo on his chest and some other things. I don't know what that was supposed to hint at, whether he's the last guy, or whether he was just
Mm.
a Q dog or whatever. I don't know. But they just had his relationship with the other character, the safecracker. They had an interesting little vibe going on, and it's like when one succeeded, you wanted the other one to succeed, and they worked together. Those kinds of little threads should wrap throughout the entire story, where it's like, oh man, I'm legitimately curious as who's going to die, and if this person dies, how are they going to solve the problem? Um, Safecracker was never really in danger. Okay, I mean, nobody we cared about was really ever in, quote unquote danger. Um, I don't know. I mean, the time you were mad at one person, it's like, they killed him off. It's like, all right, well, I didn't care about that guy anyway. It was just weirdly played out. So Zach's got a lot to do in terms of figuring out how to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about the interplay of the characters. I mean, obviously, the Dave Bautista character and the female that he recruited, they had something going on there, so they had a tight, a bond. His daughter, of course, and to be fair, I think that was the heart of the story. And Zack Snyder had a tragedy, when he was filming, Justice League with his daughter. So I
All
think that
right,
probably
right.
was motivated him to kind of put more of that storyline played out. And so I thought that was kind of fascinating. So I thought the interplay with the man, you're right. They had some cool characters, man. I like the Coyote character, man. That was a cool concept character, man. She's seen it all, been there. Like, this is what we have to do. Oh yeah, we're gonna take this guy, and they said, "Don't worry, we're gonna need him." You didn't know why, and then she did what she had to do, right, to make it happen. And so then her kind of being kind of like this opportunist, right, working with the corporate overlord guy. I thought that was interesting concept. So to your point, there are a lot of different interplays, but they didn't all kind of like gel together like tightly as it could have, in a comprehensive story. But and then also the pilot, I think, from my understanding, it was recast because the actor that did it before, fortunately got canceled, and so they had to CGI his part with this new actor, Tig Navarro, who's a
Yeah,
comedian, and she was basically in green screen the whole time and did her part all alone, separate from her castmates. So that was
amazing,
fascinating.
amazing
Yeah.
job
So
they did
so
with
they
that.
just that was like I mean, you could see some seams here and there, but it was amazing what they did there. And so she got popped up at the last minute to kind of do her little snark thing. But I mean, so yeah, so going into the whole storyline, I mean, I get what your point. The characters didn't gel well, but there's a lot of good concepts in there, man. It's just like I mean, so you kind of hinted at this in the show notes. I mean, are they gonna make other movies around this, or what are your thoughts going forward?
So I think what Snyder did was at least try to create something one new and interesting, or had a premise that was new and interesting, but could still be wrapped up, contained on its own, or offers for expanded stories and spin-offs or shoot-offs or sequels or whatever. So um, because you do run into a problem with, if you're trying to make something feel like a sequel, then your current story falls flat. So I think he did that much better than, say, Mortal
Mortal
Kombat
Kombat.
did, which was which was obviously, like, hey guys, screw this movie, we're about to have a sequel, and you're like, man, just make this movie good first, and then we'll worry about that later. So yeah, I think Zach wrapped it up nicely in terms of a single story, and then if we want a sequel, we can get one.
Man, your hate for Mortal Kombat knows no bounds, huh? Yeah, man. So yeah, like I said, man, a lot of interesting things, man, in there. I mean, I think that the thing I liked about it was like a heist movie inside of a zombie movie. So that was kind of like a mashup. And so that was kind of interesting concept. Um, but yeah, man, it was it had some moments. I would just say that. But Zack Snyder, kudos to him. I'm sure tons of people watched it, are hyped about it. Probably get another one. So just don't let the algorithms get to you, Zach. Create, get some good storytellers in there, man. Don't let the algorithms get
Yeah.
to you and say, "Oh, they like the part where the zombie baby showed up. We need more of
Eh,
that."
oh yeah. So let me theorize something with you. What do you think? So why do you think they were the the alpha characters. I think Zeus was the actual character's name. Um, the zombie with the helmet and a coat. Uh, why do you think he would have stayed with it inside of Las Vegas instead of trying to escape or whatever? Because that whole thing seemed kind of intentional. If they're that intelligent and conscious, was he just literally trying to build up an army? Then all of a sudden one day we can break out of this and go attack somewhere. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, good point. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really think that far into it. I mean, it seemed like he had a place, he had a family, he was trying to grow, and that was it. I still didn't understand why he needed human hosts. I guess potentially change into his own family. He wanted to kind of check them out first and see if they were legitimate. So a lot of that didn't make sense to me, but probably, man. Yeah, sure. He was going to break out and eventually, take over the world, but he wanted to have a baby first. That was his priority, man. He wanted to have a baby. And so when he found out that his girl had the child, he got hyped, man. He put that little fist up in the air, man. Everybody got hyped. So,
Oh,
that was his high. And then, when she died, his part of him died too. I mean, he was already dead, but part of him died more. And so
why you hating on the alien Smurf?
anyway, man. But I'll be honest with you, man. If he could just whip, man, Zack Snyder is so great at those like intros, man. Because I remember watching Watchmen and seeing that intro for Watchmen, and that
Yeah.
was so hype. And playing, I forgot, Hallelujah. I forgot what song it was, but it
Hmm.
was slow mo. Did the whole history of the Watchmen, to present day. That was brilliant. And just likewise, he did the same thing with this. And at the very beginning, man, with this Las Vegas and how it just how it got overturned, brilliant, man. It was just like you had the Elvis impersonators, you had the bachelor kids getting shot in cold blood, then you had the soccer mom, her story, her myth got created, and she was looking for her daughter. I mean, it was a whole movie in like 5 minutes. I'm like, dude, I want that movie. What brilliant! I mean, he is a genius in some category because it's like in like 2 seconds he can give you a whole kind of concept, and you want to know more about this one concept, right? So it's kind of like I wish he could just, what, this is what people really want. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was too long. If you're talking about condensing stuff into, uh, a short time frame, like a couple seconds to do a montage, they really could have cut down a lot of that, a lot of the movie because it was like 2 hours. Uh,
Yeah, it was long.
yeah, I mean, I was watching it, I was like, wow, this is really unnecessarily long. Um,
For a zombie movie. Yeah, it's pretty
yeah,
straightforward, right? You kill the zombie or the zombie kills you.
yeah,
No,
but
no, no.
I could see kids really getting into this though, uh, young talking about going out to Vegas and blowing stuff up, and yeah, it made sense if you're looking at it from a younger point of view. So I haven't checked the younger kid reviews, but I'm assuming they're fine with it.
I love it, man. Speaking of the kids, man, the Bad Batch, the last episode 4, Cornered.
Let's go.
What are your thoughts, man, about the Batch? Are they hitting their stride?
Filoniverse. Um, you know, I don't. We mentioned that Filoni got bumped up to executive director, right, of creative.
Yeah,
So
well, the rumor was he's always been that for the last couple years. They just officially announced it, but yes.
yeah, yeah. So another corporate thing, sometimes you'll have a guy just doing the entire job, and somebody from corporate comes in and says, this guy does everything already. Why don't we just give him the office and put the little board on his desk that says he's the executive creative guy?" And it's like everybody's like, "Okay, sure." Um, so yeah, he should be able to push his weight around a little more, maybe get a little more money out of that. But yeah, he's doing the same thing he's always done with this one. And I said Filoniverse because he's bringing in Fennec Shan. That was the big thing on this episode. I don't know if you remembered her or not.
Oh yeah, I remember her, man. I got hype. I mean, you can't forget that helmet and those braids, and so we literally I watched it with my kids, and I got hype. And they were like, "Why are you getting hyped, Dad?" I said, "Dude, we just literally saw this in The Mandalorian." So I had to pause the movie and we went to go see The Mandalorian, the scene where she jumps off the rocks in slow motion that they thought was cool. See? They're like, "Oh yeah." So, kids ain't that smart yet, man. They're getting there. They're getting there.
They're young.
They're getting there, man. But I will say this real quick. Uh, Dude, I mean, amazingly, in 30 years, she has not aged a day. So that was one of the things that I noticed right away. I was like, wait a minute. So wait a minute, Bad Batch is set right after the Clone Wars, and then now we had the Mandalorian right after Return of the Jedi. Isn't that like 30 years that passed?
Hmm.
So where's the gray? I mean, so it's like the Filoni verse has got to come on, y'all got to get wise, man. Kind of because wait a minute, how can let me take a step back. How you go from Ian McGregor right after the Clone Wars to Alec Guinness in Star Wars? So look at that age gap. Now you're telling me Finnick has not changed in that 30 years where you went from Obi-Wan being blonde hair, a little gray in his beard to like basic Alec Guinness who can't even walk. So it's kind of like almost. So it's kind of like what happened.
Hey man, maybe she knows some Kaminoans and has some of that rejuvenation clone juice.
So that was one of the first observations. It's like, they got to work on that a little bit better, but it's getting there. It's getting there.
Yeah, it was this episode was short, pretty much just a setup for the fact that Omega is important for some reason to to these guys. And um correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Omega is also an unaltered clone, uh or not, not like sped through the growth process. So she's allowed to grow on her own, and that may make her special, as Boba Fett turned out to be special. And of course, if you remember, Boba Fett had a special relationship with Fennec Shan, in his in the Mandalorian. So that may come back and wrap around into the story somehow. And because Filoni's involved, I'm sure it will. But
Mhm.
that's what the point of this episode was to me.
hmm Yeah, I read some comments on like the web and all that, and they were saying you got two fan favorite characters, Hunter and Finnick, going at each other, right? So who you supposed to go for, right? It's like everybody kind of loves Finnick, and now she's like the bad guy in this episode. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like how did your feelings get conflicted? Seeing that play out.
You know what? I always love the three-way dance that that Star Wars does. There's the Empire side, the Rebellion side, and the rogue smuggler, we're not doing whatever we want to do kind of side.
Mm,
So seeing it play out in the Bad Batch, where you had the last episode where like, no, we're going to rebel against this newly forming empire. So they're kind in this series, they're kind of taking the role of the rebellion, and now all of a sudden, 4 episodes in, it's like, well, hey, here, don't forget, we still have the bounty hunter smuggler angle, and Fennec Shand shows up. So I was like, oh, here we go. I'm on this rodeo. Let's go.
Is that the first time she's been animated? So is that the first
Hmm.
time she's been animated?
I believe so.
So it's Filoni verse, man. So he took a character from Clone Wars. What's the character, and moved her to live action, played by the same actress, sounded voiced by the same actress in the Clone Wars. What was her name? The Mandalorian, the leader of the
Bo
Mandalores,
Bo-Katan?
Bo-Katan. Took her from animated to live action, then took a live action character from Mandalorian and put him in
Yeah,
animation,
man.
voiced by the same actor. So it's like, dude, hey man, I got it, man. He's got that juice, dude.
Once you hear him talk in that cowboy hat, he just kind of leans forward. What we really thought we were doing is creating a essence of the, and you just get wrapped in, man. I could tell this guy knows what he's talking about. Leave him alone. Have Favreau check in on him every once in a while, but Filoni's got a handle on it.
Yeah. He sounds like he does, man. So and this is dude. Can you imagine? This is like the what fourth episode? They're already introducing fan favorite characters. So my prediction gonna come true? Are we gonna see the Dark Lord himself?
Well, you mean Supreme Leader Snoke? Supreme Leader joke. Ugh.
Snoke appears. Nah, dog, I'm talking about Darth Vader, man.
Oh, right. You know what? It's like how much Vader can you? Vader has to be used very sparingly, and apparently he's supposed to be involved with the Obi-Wan series. So I don't know how much they want to introduce
That's a good
or
point. That's a
use
good point.
Vader. Um, I think they'll hold off on that a bit.
Okay. So they're gonna keep it in the Filoni verse, and you have characters that he's kind of created. But I mean, they just introduced Finnick from Mandalorian, so I mean, will we see? What's the Mandalorian's real name? Dash, or what's his real
Oh,
name?
Din Djarin.
Din Djarin. Will we see Din Djarin pop up? Or well, he was too young. He was a baby. That's right. So he probably won't pop up. But see,
Uh,
that's why that timeline is messing me up. Finnick is showing up here, but then she doesn't age, and so now she shows up at
oh, you
30
remember
years later.
she had the Robo Belly. So,
But that was after
oh
ha.
wait,
That was
yeah, it was
after
after
season one.
she got
Yeah.
stomach
But
blasted,
she
right?
got shot up. Yeah, she got shot up. And then that's when Boba Fett, patched her up.
That's
So,
right.
but yeah, anyway, so like a dude, we can get deep into this thing. So we'll see, man. It's Filoni verse, man. Like I said, I'm watching it with the kids, man. I mean, I'm not taking too much from it yet. I mean, I'm hoping we're
No.
gonna see some shocking reveals. I don't know. You watched all the Clone Wars. I mean, are there some moments where you're like, "Oh, that was a deep storyline"? I mean, are we
Oh,
coming? You think we're gonna get some of
it's
that?
Filoni's all about the slow burn. He's gonna take his time and just slowly put it out there, but by the end, when it hits, it will hit. Um, in fact, with most of the seasons of the Clone Wars, you watch the first couple episodes, maybe like one in the middle, and then the last couple. If you uh, there are like lists out there where you can skip. It's like, hey, here's what you can skip if you want to go through it quickly. In fact, I might make a
Okay.
list of those. But but
Yeah,
yeah,
I will. I will. Yeah, I would love
he
that list.
he comes with the heat in a good and appropriate way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, we're in his world, man. Like even Solo introduced a Filoni verse character, right? With the reemergence of Darth Maul. So and then most people are like, why is he showing up in this movie? So
Yeah,
it shocked the hell out of everybody. But if you watch the Clone Wars and you
yeah.
knew what he was doing, so it's kind of like
No,
we're in his world, man.
dude. The characters. I forgot what they're called, but the guys in Solo who were holding, there, dude had the mask over his face, the big mechanical looking dude. Uh, he had the keys, right? And they were trying to break out. That
Yeah.
whole tribe has a whole storyline in Clone Wars, and when we saw them in live action, we were like, holy crap! They just filled in a crap load of story, and for those who were just watching Solo and hadn't seen it, the Clone Wars, they were like, okay, well, you got some guys who are holding on to you know, a little depot out here. It's like, no, no, no. There's a whole thing going on where they're trying to set up the Pikes. There you go. Where the Pikes are trying to set up this trade, and they're trying to, I like the political stupidity in Star Wars. So when I saw that, and even the guy with the scarred up face, his whole political intrigue, he's not really mentioned in Clone Wars, but his whole clan and all that has a whole story. It's
Yeah.
dumb how
And
connected it is.
And then Saul Guerrero, that I mean, that's basically Filoni creation, right? That they've been putting in live action and putting into the
Hmm.
Clone Wars, and so showing the beginning of the rebellion, run by
Yeah.
Saul. So yeah, man, he's it's kind of like they're like, they probably bring all these great, writers in. They say, hey, go ahead, write a Star Wars story. Yeah, I'm gonna write my own Star Wars story. Woo, woohoo! And then you got Filoni, the whisper. Well, that guy's really blah blah blah, and the writer's like, yeah, yeah, because he runs into he's like, okay, thank you, Filoni. So it's like, he's like kind of filling all this backstory for because I mean, like we talked about this before. It's like, basically Star Wars is about the Skywalker clan, right? I mean, so
Hmm.
that's all we know, and it's a universe, right? It's a whole universe of characters, and Filoni is basically, TV show by TV show, movie by movie, filling in, all these other stories that we never gotten over the last, 40 something years of
Yeah.
Star Wars. And so kudos to
Decide
him.
and decidedly non-Skywalker.
None of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
none of it. And he's becoming the people are becoming fan favorites, man. Like Ashoka and other characters are just becoming like huge properties now based on what he created. So, man, kudos to him, man. They better pay that guy all the money, man. Seriously, I'm sure they are because he could definitely, I mean, I could literally see if they get this right. This could be even bigger than what Feige's doing, right? Because he's basically writing stuff in real time, whereas Feige has like, 50, 60 years, 80 years of comics he can go back
Yep,
to.
yep.
But, this dude is literally creating it from the dome. So it's like no one has these stories yet. Where are these stories written at, man? No one's got these stories.
Yeah. Freestyle Friday. Bring Filoni on BET right now.
Should have a cipher, man. Star Wars, the non-Luke Skywalker stories.
That's right.
So yeah, man, he's doing his thing, man. But anyway, hey guys, we're near the end. Wow, we hit it again, man. Another great week. What you got planned, man?
Oh man, this week I'm going to be putting out some new content, trying to figure out TikTok again. Just playing around with these social media streets.
Be careful, man. Be careful. The sheets is hot.
That's
Sheets is
right.
hot, brother. So, nah, man, it's always been great, man. I think on my side, just hitting the business side hard, checking out this crypto market. What's going to happen next? That's just fascinating to me, and how we can, leverage that and talk more about where is it going, especially when it contains to, content creation, the show type movies and TV shows. I think I think they're coming together in interesting ways with influencers and content. So and storytelling. So it's fascinating that where this is going. So I am definitely excited. So with that being said, everyone, please thank you for another week of listening to us. Please like and subscribe and comment at Show versus Business on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to reach out to us, comment, check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, I've been Theo. Take care, Mr. Benja.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture. Please subscribe to this podcast at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Please like and subscribe to our Instagram page, Show versus Business, to get exclusive behind the scenes takes and upcoming episodes. Talk to you next time.
Finish him!